Hey, it's Aaron, the Metal Theologian. Camera's doing some wonky shit today. Usually it sort of mellows at some point. There's no less light in here than normal, but I look all red for some reason, so I don't know. Go figure. Fuck that shit anyway. So, yeah, I'll start off with a little So to Speak today, actually. Of course, I can't hold a candle to the So to Speak masters over at Grown Men Record Night, but I am enjoying Virgil's root beer here. It's microbrewed, and it's so rich and creamy, you'll swear it's made in heaven. So, here we go. Of course, it's fucking awesome. Let's see, look. It just faded into, like, heavenly clouds for a second there. That was like, while I was swallowing, oh, here we go again. Oh, my God. It's sort of like when the acid's kicking in. Okay, no, actually, it's the root beer's kicking in, because fucking, when I took that sip, it was just like, oh, I swear it's made in heaven. Holy shit. So, there we go. Anyway, I'm going to talk a little about the Second Battle label today. It's a reissue label out of Berlin. And what they've done is make available a whole bunch of mostly German, old prog stuff, tending towards the heavy end of the spectrum, which of course appeals to me, seeing how I'm the metal theologian, not the prog rock theologian, right? But there's a lot of cool stuff they've done, and I just sort of want to highlight some of the releases. I'm going to go through the records that I have that are actually on that label, and at some point I might do sort of a part 2 where I talk about ones that I have that Second Battle is also done, but I don't actually have Second Battle editions of, but we'll see if it comes to that. So anyway, this has the potential to become a longie, because I have more than I realized. But let's get started right away with this masterpiece. This is Edge of Time by Dome, and I've heard this described as like Pink Floyd-ish. Listened to a little bit of it before, and I suppose you could call it Pink Floyd-ish if the whole record sounded like Interstellar Overdrive or Set Controls for the Heart of the Sun or something like that. Because it's definitely towards the spacier end. It kind of has that sort of psych prog feel thing going on, but it's definitely, you know, sort of doing the spacey thing more than just sort of like the do we play our instruments so well type of thing. I think this is a fucking brilliant record right here, and I'm going to say that a lot tonight realistically because I love pretty much every record in the stack. In fact, I might just not say it. Like, if I don't say anything, just take it for granted that I fucking love the record. So, maybe I should actually add a couple words here. I've been a pretty huge fan of 70s German rock for about 20 years now, something like that. And a lot of it sort of broadly seems to fall under the category of prog, or sort of under the umbrella of prog. But there isn't very much German prog rock, quote-unquote, that has that sort of precious feel that a lot of the English stuff does. I mean, I like bands like Genesis just fine. I'm not a big fan of Yes, but, you know, even like Henry Cow, or, you know, some of these other English bands, they're good, right? But they're definitely feels to a certain degree for me like there's an emphasis on the musicianship itself over the songwriting or the construction. That all those things factor in, don't get me wrong, but a lot of it just feels kind of precious and kind of up itself to a certain degree. They sound like the art school students that a lot of them pretty much were. So you don't tend to get that so much with the German thing. There tends to be a much more sort of raw vibe. You know, something like jazz rock is normally anathema to me, but if you hear a German band being, you know, touted as jazz rock, usually that means they have like long jams, but it's still dark and, you know, maybe a little bit fusiony, I suppose, but not like Mahavishnu Orchestra or something relatively lame like that. So, Dome is a great example of that. This one's even fucking better, actually. This is an all-time favorite of mine. Look, we're already starting with all-time favorites, right? This is My Solid Ground. They're a one-and-done band. A little expression I learned here in the vinyl community. This record is, it's really a space rock masterpiece. It's not as overtly space, like they were trying to sound like space, like Asherah Temple or Cosmic Jokers, but it, again, has a little bit of a Pink Floyd thing going, but like the very first song on this, Dirty Yellow Mist, is like most of the first side, and it's just like a single riff that sort of drones over, and they build shit on top of it, but it's really nuts. The Executioner, the first song on side 2, you should listen to right away if you haven't heard it before, because it's a fucking freak rock masterpiece, man. It's just fucking absolute brilliant. And if you can see all those little pigs there holding up the logo, yeah, I don't know what they were thinking. Hey, how would we put this shit on our cover? So anyway, it's another great one. Some of these are doubles, by the way. Second Battle tends to do reissues that are like 3 or 4, even 3-sided, sometimes 4-sided, with bonus tracks. But I'm not a big fan of bonus tracks, so I tend to ignore the extra shit. Bonus tracks to me are usually shit that should have left on the cutting room floor anyway. They didn't make it the first time for a reason. But there's some very notable exceptions. Anyway, the next one up is Light of Darkness. Now this band is not, well, they get lumped into the krautrock too, but of the 4 guys in the band, I think 3 were Scottish and 1 were German. Maybe there's another guy from somewhere else, but this is mostly a Scottish band, and occasionally you hear it, when they sort of go into the boogie thing, which kind of reminds you of other Scotsmen, like AC/DC. But these guys have sort of a Captain Beefheart-ish sounding singer, actually. Maybe it's been the Beefheart controversy of late that kind of put him in the front of my mind, but it's a weird sounding singer who kind of sounds like Beefheart, but not quite as much, if you know what I'm saying. Hard rock record, just great, like, heavy guitar. Yeah, if you like 70s hard rock, Light of Darkness is something you ought to seek out. I've talked about this one before, so I'm only going to touch on it very briefly, but this is the Geronimo self-titled record. Fucking fantastic record, just rocking, brilliant all the way through, and a beautiful reissue of it's a very rare record. Here's another. This one's actually English. This is a band called I Drive, and it's kind of an unassuming record cover, but this one, just great 70s hard rock. No bones about it. Awesome 70s hard rock. Lots of rock and guitar riffs, good singer, solid performance. Everything's great. This one even came with a bonus 45. But again, I say fuck the extras. Although it is kind of funny that like you get the 2 record set with the bonus 45 and it's still like 1/10 of the price of an original. So I recommend it. That's why all the non-Germans seem to come to the front of the stack. This is a Swiss band, actually. Crocodile, or Crocodile, I guess, really. And this is their first record. Second Battle did this one and also their third record, which I'll show in just a moment. Their second one, though, for some reason doesn't seem to have ever been reissued. I think it's called Swamp. I could be mistaken about that, but I believe it's called Swamp. And it's very rare, and there might be a CD of it, but it almost never turns up, and I don't know why the first and the third kind of pop up and go in and out of print here and there, but that second one just doesn't seem to. This one's a lot more of a straight-ahead rock record than the other record they did, which has more sort of the prog thing going, kind of a little bit Pink Floyd-y, but like with sitars and that, and I'll show it in a second. This one has more harmonica on it than sitar, and you might not agree with this when you hear it, but for me it almost has a little bit of a rural feel, but like rural for a small country like Switzerland where they don't have shit like Kansas and Oklahoma. So not quite that far out in the sticks, you know what I'm saying? But yeah, really cool vibe to it. Really good record. I actually, when I got that one, I didn't have very high expectations originally. I remember bringing it home and just loving it. So by the standards of this stack, it's a 6 out of 10. By the standards of like the record collection, 8 or 9 out of 10, no problem. This is a great one. Also had the Swiss band Crocodile and Invisible World Revealed. And this is their third record with that weird cover. Came with that big booklet in there. I don't know if you can see that particularly well, but just sitting around a tree, because that's what, because they had to find a fucking tree in the Alps. Like, how about a mountain? But I don't know. I guess I'm playing ethnic stereotypes a little bit here. Anyway, it's a great record. Very proggy, lots of sitar, and sort of that psych thing. But again, I say sitar, and you'd say that to me, I think pretentious fucks. But that record really doesn't sound pretentious. It still has the sincerity that you tend to get from the European continent. Okay, these guys are German too. Someone actually asked about this in a comment. This is another great cover, actually. That's Dirt Box by Blackwater Park. Fucking camera's being a goddamn nightmare today, man. Fuck. What a piece of shit. Alright, well anyway, Blackwater... Fuck. Blackwater Park is really fucking cool. It's another good hard rock record. Oh, come on. I'm gonna have to do this again at this other shit. Hey, there we go. Alright, so, that threw me off my stride a little bit. So anyway, see that fried egg in there, by the way? Like the weird, like, wooden statuettes, like, sitting around a fucking fried egg. Yeah, I don't know what they were thinking with this cover. It's a weird-ass cover. The record doesn't quite live up to that in terms of weirdness, but in terms of like, a really good hard rock record, is this shit right here, man. It's fucking really good. This next one, speaking of good covers, this one I almost made those top 5 covers that I was going to do. This is The One and Done by Nosferatu. And that's one of the heaviest fucking looking things I've ever seen. Now this record unfortunately doesn't live up to this, okay? It's a very good record. It is, hard prog, but, with like some flutes and shit in it. But it's like prog songwriting, but played hard, whereas some of these are like hard rock with some sort of prog elements to it. This one is definitely sort of more on the prog side of the equation, but still a rockin' record. A tough record, and one that's really enjoyable. I've gotten a lot of mileage out of it. First listen, it's like I was bummed that they didn't sound like, Deep Purple. But second listen on, it's only growing on me. This next one actually kind of falls on the other side of that equation. I was just saying that one was kind of like prog writing with hard performance. This one is like hard writing with prog sprinkled on top. And this is Gift. This is their self-titled record. Their second record's also very good. Not a Second Battle one. This is... that's just another good hard rocker, man. Yeah. I don't know what else to say. This is, in a way, this next one is an example of what's cool about German bands. Alright, Tomorrow's Gift. Oh, look at that. Doesn't that just look like some hippie bullshit? Doesn't it look like they're going to sound like fucking Jefferson Airplane or some horse shit like that? Look, like they're sitting in the fucking leaves and they're all dressed like hippies and the dude's girlfriend is in the front, right? It's going to suck, right? No, not at all. It's fucking fantastic. This one was actually a double to begin with. The singer, I'm happy to report, doesn't sound like she's the guitar player's girlfriend. She's like sings a low register and like really delivers the goods on the vocals. I mean, without trying to sound like a guy or something like that. It's just its own thing. I've heard it described as sounding like the singer from Amandul 2, Renate Knaup, I think her name was. That's a pretty apt comparison, actually, too. Maybe not quite as sort of harsh as Renate, but it's a good singer, too. Doesn't spoil a thing. These songs stretch out a little bit. I mean, there are 2 records for over the albums, so they're not short, but the songs don't overstay their welcome. It's like they have the prog thing going on, but it's not like, oh, okay, we're going to take 20 minutes and just jam now. It's like we have this other idea that we're going to work through, and then come back to the original theme and call it quits. So, very good record. Look at that, though. Looks like it's going to be fucking terrible, doesn't it? It's a great record. Don't let it fool you. Here's another classic cornball cover. This is Icarus, spelled with a K, as the Germans are wont to do. This one's really as close to just a total prog record as you're going to find in the stack. I still like this record a lot. It has a little bit of a dark vibe to it. Not super dark like, Drosselbart or some of these other German guys, but a relatively dark vibe. It's kind of a long record, too, but again, it doesn't overstay its welcome. That's just cool. Alright, here's another favorite. In fact, I'm going to recommend one for sheer heaviness. Second Battle also reissued Night Sun. My personal copy is not a Second Battle, so I'm not going to show it today. Since that's not here, if I'm going to recommend one for heaviness, it might well be this one. Zarathustra. This sounds like, it sounds like a classic era Uriah Heep or something like that. I want to say Deep Purple, but it's really kind of more like Uriah Heep, sort of like a lot of German bands. I think Uriah Heep was probably one of the most influential bands where people never really recognized how influential they were because most of their influences on the continent. A lot of German bands are huge Uriah Heep fans. You can hear it in their records, and these guys are first in line. So, isn't that a weird-ass cover, too? I fucking love this shit, man. There you go, and just a little Second Battle logo on the back. That's it. A Spartan presentation. That's why I should have done my fucking camera blurred out before, is have another sip of my fucking drink. Instead I forgot about it and just sat there and started swearing. Like I need an impetus to swear. Okay, this is the record they sort of made their reputation with as a label. This is one of the, German prog rock monsters. I actually had an original at one point, but Hard Times induced me to let it go. But this is Reflections on the Future by 2066 and Then. They had a singer from Britain, so they have a little bit more of, frankly, just a little bit less of sort of a foreign feel than a lot of the other bands where there's either a German singer with, an accent, or a German singer with a little bit less of an accent, or they just said fuck it and sang in German. But these guys, this is what prog rock should sound like. This is like, it's prog for sure, but it's also rock. It's not just like prog. I'm off busy rubbing one out, and I forgot to actually keep the record interesting. It's like yeah, right on, man. Fucking complex and all that other shit, but just a great record. They put this one out as well. This one's called Reflections on the Past, and this is basically outtakes and shit. 2066 and Then only put the one record out. These are some alternate versions, a couple unreleased things in that, but basically just sort of an odds and ends record. In my collection, this was basically a really good placeholder till they reissued the other one, because even the first version of the reissue is pretty damn hard to find these days, so when they repressed it, I grabbed it. And the other one, it's a cool curio, but it's not really essential. Here's another great prog rocker, very moody and dark, this one. In fact, this is, for a straight prog rock record, this is about as dark as it gets, really. Total contrast to something like, the relatively bright sound of Genesis. If Foxtrot had an opposite record, it would probably sound like this, the Professor Wolf record. And that's Professor Wolf spelled with 3 F's. No, I don't know what the fuck they were thinking. This record's sung entirely in German, too. Which is also, relatively unusual. But, again, kind of adds that foreignness, sort of, gives it a weird sort of thing. It's like the difference between watching, Hollywood horror movies, or even, like Herschel Gordon Lewis, Florida productions, versus, Italian horror movies. There's just a weirdness to it. And that's what you get on the record, too. Of course, all that talk, and I get to one of the more English-sounding ones in the batch. The Sperrmüll record. I like this record a lot. I've heard some criticism of this one because, first of all, because originals are so expensive, and, so the relative value proposition comes in. It's kind of a mishmash of styles, though, and you could argue that this record doesn't really cohere all that well, but I think with a couple of listens, and not a lot of listens, just a couple, that it really does hang together as just sort of some different styles put together, but by the same band with a distinct identity. There's one song on here that, could be a King Crimson outtake, No Freak Out. Sounds a hell of a lot like it. Me and My Girlfriend is like a rocker with a mandolin right up front. And, yeah, I just like this record. I don't go through every song. I've played the shit out of that one, though. There's another balls out hard rocker. Well, not quite as balls out as some of these, but at least one ball out. With that weird sort of Salvador Dali-esque thing. This is the Gin record. Another weird sounding singer, this guy. Not quite as weird as the guy from Light of Darkness, but it's funny. It's like this guy, it's not so much that his voice is inherently weird as much as the combination of his voice and sort of the way he articulates lines makes him sound really weird. It's actually really interesting. And this is a great record. Got some wah-wah going on in there, and there's some slower tracks too, but again, it's a really good record, start to finish. Coheres. So for last, I've saved one of my very favorite German bands, and Second Battle actually did 2 of their records as well, and that is Harry Chapter. Yeah, Harry Chapter. This is their second record, Can't Get Through, which is, I would say it's like prog writing, but delivered in a hard way, or played like hard rock. Little more keyboard on this one, in contrast with this one, which is pretty much just a hard rocker all the way through. A little bit bluesier than the second one too, but to call this one a bluesy record wouldn't really be doing it justice. This is a very hard rocking record, and probably in the top 3 in the stack. I love this one. Fucking great. These guys look really funny too. And what's that dude doing on the bottom? You see that? Like his head's just fucking pasted on there. I don't know what the fuck is up with that, but it looks really funny. Anyway, so those are my Second Battle records. If you're watching, really, I'll buy a record just because it's on the Second Battle label. That's why I want to highlight some of these. They tend to be good in different ways, but there generally seems to be a sense of heaviness about them and a sense of purpose to each record. They do a lot of one-off bands, one-and-done bands, which I have a soft spot for anyway, as you probably noticed from the metal I've shown as well. And, if someone from Second Battle is watching this, feel free to send me some promos. Wenn von Second Battle jemand reinguckt, schickt mir ruhig Platten. Okay, thanks for watching, and hope you got a little kick out of it, and maybe I turned you on to something new here. Don't spend too much money if you can help it. Shit. Going to a record store and saying, I'm not going to spend too much money, but I'm going to go to the record store. It's sort of like saying just the tip, right? So, alright, thanks a lot. Cheers.